This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
We promised you, yes, hour number 3 would start off with Michelle Kaufman to talk a little Canes and a little Inter Miami. Good afternoon, Mrs. Kaufman. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? I'm in Kansas City.
You're in Kansas City, so you're there with the boys.
I'm here with the guys' team. Yep, here with the men's team. We have somebody else covering the women's team in Greenville. It's a big day for UM basketball today. Big day. Biggest
Although
day in the
you're
school's
going to be
history.
watching on television, right? You'll be watching when you get off here. You'll be ready for 2:30
Yes.
for Villanova and the U, right?
Yes, absolutely. This is the biggest day in Miami basketball history. It's never happened. Both the men's and women's teams in the Sweet 16. This is actually a historic day, UM basketball history.
Yep. I mean, it's really impressive. And considering the adversity that Katie has had to go through this year,
Yep.
It kind of adds a little bit more spice to all of this, because we all know that it was ridiculous that the NCAA was going to go after the women's program. That was just silly,
Yes.
overall. But it's just but I'm happy for Katie because she's a fighter. As
Yep.
you know, you've covered her for many years now.
18 years. Yes, she's that was the one thing really missing from her resume was, a postseason second weekend. That's a really big achievement. And especially this year. Yeah, the season began with, on the eve of the opening game of the season, they announced that she was suspended for 3 games, which was just shocking. I mean, everybody was like, what? Katie Meyer? And that really hurt her. It really bothered her. That she and her program would have any kind of stain on it. It was very painful for her. And then on the eve, finally kind of got past that. They had, a good season. And then on the eve of senior day, the NCAA announces the sanctions. And, so spoils, so their season opener was spoiled. Their senior day season finale was spoiled. And then, to be honest, they were not 100% sure they were going to make the tournament, and they did not host a public watch party, because they were a little bit on the fence. So they just had a private viewing. They didn't have like the big festivities that the men's team had. And so not only did they make the tournament, they now find themselves in the Sweet 16 after knocking off the number 1 seed Indiana on their home floor, because in the women's field, they play, the number 1 seeds play a home game. So they played at Assembly Hall in front of 15,000 Indiana fans, and they beat them. They completely shocked them to make the Sweet 16. So it's a really great story. And then you've got the men's team, so also in the Sweet 16, knocking, so it's a big day for UM basketball.
All right, before I ask you about the men's team, break it down for us. What's the challenge for them against Villanova today?
The challenge is one challenge. Maddie Siegrist of Villanova is the top scorer in the entire country. She's the number 1 leading scorer in the NCAA. She averages 29.2 points a game. She's had many 30-point games, and she had a 50-point game against Seton Hall in February. The woman can score like nobody's business. Katie Meyer compared her to Breanna Stewart. Katie coached Breanna Stewart in USA basketball and said, they're very similar. Wherever she goes on the court, she will shoot over you and she will make it. She's 6'1", an incredible shooter. She's the leading scorer of all time of Villanova, men's and women's. She's broken every conceivable record. So the big story today, period, for the women is, can they limit Maddie Siegrist? That's it. That's the storyline. The storyline is, how do you stop that woman, or, not stop her, but limit her to fewer than 30 points, which is her average. So that's going to be tough.
The men, obviously, great story. Taking on Houston today. Houston's favored by 7.5 now. Talk to me about this game. What are we expecting in this game tonight at 7:15?
Well, Houston is a number 1 seed for a reason. They're, like 33-3. They've won a lot of games. They have the number 2 scoring defense in the country. They allow, I believe it's 54 points a game, and Miami averages about 80. So Miami averages around 80 points a game, and this team limits his opponents to 56 points per game. So they're number one in the nation for percentage defense, number one for three-point percentage defense. They are basically the top, they're the best defensive team in the country. They like to slow things down. So, this is once again going to be a little bit of Miami's very fast paced. They like to run. They like to run and score on the fast break. And Houston is a team that likes to slow the pace down, much fewer possessions, and, really low scoring games, kind of like the Virginia type, team that, slow, it's like almost halftime and the score is like, 23 to 22. And you're going, what is going on here? So it's going to be, that type of a team. Houston one thing is they're not that big. Coach Larinaga said they're kind of a mirror image size-wise to They don't have those huge 7-foot guys. They've got some thick 6'7". I mean, they don't have the 7-foot guys, but they've got, guys who are Norchad Omir's size, 6'7", 6'6", beefy guys, very good defenders. They have 3 really good guards who can score, similar also to So they look-wise, they look a lot like Miami, but they play very different. They're tenacious defenders. Miami is going to have to be careful with the ball, not turn the ball over. That's going to be really critical. Miami's guards, if they get a little sloppy or loose with the hands with the ball, that's where Houston is going to take advantage. So, once again, I'm sure there will be way more Houston fans. Miami just doesn't travel that well. They have their little small spirited contingent, but it's always one little section of green people wearing giant turnover chains. And then the rest of the arena is all the other color. That's how it is in every game I've ever covered for 30 years now. So, Houston will have probably have way more home fans. They're the number 1 seed. But Miami, the way they played against Indiana, if they were to play the way they played against Indiana, they really could beat anybody in this field. That was the most unbelievable performance that they put on. It was just incredible from start to finish.
One of the things that has given Miami a little problem is size. How is Houston in that department? Are they much taller than Miami? Because that's a hurdle for them.
No, they're not. They're not. That's what I was saying. They don't have the 7-footers. They're not Duke. They're not Wake. They're not, they don't have the really tall guys. They have guys who are about 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", very similar in size to Miami. So the size, as far as height, the size is not going to be an issue. They're strong. They have some strong, physical. They're very physical. This game is going to be very physical. Coach L said he's watched a lot of tape now, and this is the most physical defense that he has seen all season. So it's going to be a very, very physical game. Norchad is obviously going to have to be, Norchad. And then the other guys are going to have to step up and play a little like Norchad too, because this is a team that's very, very physical that they're going to face.
And by the way, some thought that Indiana was going to be physical with them too. But one of the things that I think you mentioned it now, the speed, Miami used that to their advantage. They're going to have to, it seems like that's what they're going to have to do tonight, that the guards are going to have to do some of the things they did the other night. Wong has had just a phenomenal tournament, man. He's been
well, especially the Indiana game. He was unbelievable. He came back from a very subpar first game and then, just played out of his mind. He was scoring from everywhere, 27 points. And Jordan Miller also had 19 points, most of them in
he was clutch.
Yeah, he was really clutch. And then Wooga, one of the only question marks for the tonight is Wooga Poplar did injure his lower back. He fell on his tailbone against Indiana. He didn't practice for a few days. He did practice yesterday for the first time. So, I think he's going to be able to go. I don't know if he's 100%, but he did, and he's become one of the better defenders on the team too, and a very good free throw shooter. So he's going to be clutch. Wooga Poplar has become a very, very key player on this team. So they're going to need him. They're going to need Bensley Joseph's defense. Bensley Joseph is another just tenacious defender who's also made big plays in very important moments in the postseason. So, If all those guys are playing well, and if Norchad doesn't get in foul trouble, that is going to be a big issue. If I were Houston, somebody's assignment would be get this guy out of the game, get him in foul trouble, because that is the one area where Norchad is amazing. He had 17 rebounds the other day, 17 rebounds against Indiana. He's incredible. I did a story on him today. He's just amazing. But the one thing is he has a tendency to get in foul trouble. Part of it is also because he's so strong. People bounce off him, literally bounce off him and fall onto the floor, so he gets called for stuff that some other players who are not as thick don't get called. But when he gets 2 fouls, he sits down. So, they need to be really, really careful. He needs to be very, very careful, because without Norchad Omier against a team like Houston, so physical, they're going to have a very, very difficult time. So that's maybe more critical than anything, is for Norchad to be able to stay in the game and not foul out of that game and not be sitting with 2 fouls for the majority of the first half.
All right. Michelle Kaufman, by the way, you can follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports and catch her work there at the Miami Herald. And so, Michelle, you're all over the place. Inter Miami, 2 home wins, 2 road losses now. Now they're back at home to take on Chicago tomorrow night at Drive Pink Stadium. Are the boys going to bounce back? Because,
Well, I'm going to tell you why I don't know, because the team that they are going to be fielding tomorrow night will be missing the following players for various reasons. Joseph Martinez is out. He's with the Venezuelan national team playing against Saudi Arabia and Uzbekistan. Leo Campana returned to practice yesterday, but is not in playing shape and is not expected to play. Gregory is out for about 6 months with the surgery that he just had. And he's an amazing, he's a team captain, very important player. So they're not going to have Joseph. They're not going to have Leo. They're not going to have Gregory. That's for starters.
Campana.
And Campana. Yeah. So it's going to be difficult. But they are home and they play very, very well at home. They've been freezing. The last 2 games were both, the NYCFC game, it was like 21 degrees and wind blowing, and they were all like frozen, popsicles. And then the next game, also they were freezing. So against Toronto, they were really cold. It was also a super cold game. It was snowing, and they were all wearing gloves and long johns and all this stuff. I know that they're very happy to be back in Fort Lauderdale at Drive Pink Stadium in the warmth with their home fans again. It's been a while now since they've played at home. So, I think that they're going to definitely be energized by that. But, new guys are going to have to step up because, for example, for forward, if you're not going to have Leo Campana, you don't have Joseph Martinez. I guess Lassiter could start. Stefanelli is capable of playing forward also, maybe Rodolfo. I don't know. They're going to have to improvise there in the front. And we'll see what happens. They've had a tendency last year too to play very well at home and then struggle on the road. So that was the big
wait a minute. No, the first road game, they didn't really struggle. They didn't score.
Right. They allowed an
own goal. I mean,
the truth is right. The Toronto game is the first game where an opponent scored against them. So they did go 3 games. They went 3 games without allowing an opponent scoring. So that is very promising. That is very promising. If you don't allow the opponent to score, you have a pretty good chance to win.
It was kind of a frustrating road trip because if you at least could have either gotten a tie or a win the first game, then the road trip wouldn't have been so bad. You know what I mean? But it was just and they have played really good defense overall. I mean,
they've been playing good defense.
Calendar has been terrific, man.
Yeah, they've been playing. Calendar's been making, game-winning saves. I mean, he's been incredible. Phil is trying to push him for the U.S. national team pool, get him in there, start training him. He feels that he's definitely capable. He's so young and inexperienced still, and he's really playing out of his mind. So, I think Miami, even without Joseph Joseph hasn't scored. So they've had Joseph all these games and he hasn't scored. So, I know it's a big deal to miss him, but maybe some of these other guys will score. And I do think they're going to be energized by being at home again, being in the warm weather, being in front of their own fans. And some of these guys who don't normally get a chance, I know that like Bryce Duke will be chomping at the bit. Rodolfo wants to score. Lassiter would love to score. So I think Miami will win this game. I think Chicago is not one of the top teams. I think Miami will win this game.
Free Bryce Dukes for this game, please. Free Bryce Dukes. Come on, get him in the starting lineup.
Yeah. Well, he may, with these other guys missing.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe. Yeah, and with Gregory out.
Yeah, you push somebody else up and put him, back. So
Right.
yeah, maybe that's what ends up happening. All right. So one more thing before I let you go, and I can't let you go without asking this. Are we like a couple weeks closer to Messi coming here? Is that
God, I have no idea. I'll be honest. I've been drowning in March Madness, Miami Open tennis, Inter Miami, and I teach a class at the University of Miami I'm still teaching during all this craziness. So I have not heard anything new on Messi in a while now. In several
Did you see that video the other day of him going to dinner in Argentina?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. He was mobbed by thousands.
Oh God.
He needed security to get out of the restaurant, and they were like all over. And I'm like, this guy can't get here fast enough because he can go to dinner and nobody's going to bother him, bro.
Yeah, he can't live. No, here he'd have a much better life here. He really would. People will love Messi, but it will not be that kind of insanity that he faces there, where he can't even go to his home. He can't go to dinner. He'll be able to go to dinner here, and some people will want a selfie or whatever, but that's it.
And as you know, he won the World Cup, which is the last thing he needed to satisfy the Argentine fan.
Right.
Because they were holding that shit against him.
Oh, yes.
Maradona got one. Well, Maradona got it. He didn't. Yeah, he wins everything, but he doesn't bring us the World Cup. And so once he brought the World Cup, that's
right. And they also would say that he's not a real Argentine because he left Argentina at 14 years old and went to Spain, and that his whole career was really developed in Spain. And that, Maradona's the one who was a man of the people in Argentina. Right. He was more connected to the Argentine population. And
he started with Flamengo. He started with Flamengo and took them to a title, I think it was.
Right, exactly. So, Messi has always been a little bit of, he was an export, basically. He left at 14 and had his whole career in Spain. And yes, they were proud of him, but they felt that he cared more about his Spanish jersey than his blue and white jersey. But now all that is forgiven. It's all forgiven. All forgiven.
Yeah, which in today's world, that's so unfair to treat any of these players like that, because it's so common for a young player to go to another country and kick off his career, and you just never know. It doesn't mean that he's not, patriotic to his own country, but that's just the way it goes.
No, they want to play in the best leagues, and right now the best leagues are in England and they're in Spain. And if you're one of the top players, that's where you're going to go. You're not going to stay in your country just because you're patriotic. You're going to go wherever the best opportunities are.
Right, exactly. So that's just not fair to treat him that way. But I have to ask, because I think it's happening. I really do. How does he not have an international contract already at this point? How has somebody not signed him already to a deal?
Right. No, I mean, there's probably there it may happen. There's deals going on that are very complicated, that involve MLS. It's not Jorge Mas and Inter Miami. I mean, it's bigger than that. The entire MLS is involved. They want this to be they're offering, I mean, Don Garber said it in as many words, they're basically offering him a David Beckham type deal where, he will have ownership opportunities, he will have all kinds of perks. I'm assuming Apple will be involved. Apple wants to spread its brand around the world with the MLS season pass. What better way than having Lionel Messi every week on TV in a MLS jersey playing in an MLS stadium? I mean, people around the world will be able to watch that in England, in Argentina, in Spain, in France, in Africa, everywhere, in Asia. So, I mean, that is where I think, Inter Miami wants to, expand its tentacles to the rest of the world. Having Messi as your poster boy, that's the best way to do it.
We just got to find out which is the company that is making the corner stands for the Moss brothers, so we can just confirm this whole thing. Because not only will they sign Messi, they will complete that stadium and round out those corners with an extra 8,000 seats.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to try to milk it, because that stadium as it is now, 19,000 seats with Messi playing. I mean, that's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, each ticket is going to be like $1,000.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
I just want to. You know what I should do? I should go buy one of those warehouses just so I can use it for parking for the second half of the season and make.
There you go.
Crazy stuff. All right, follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports. Catch her work there at the Miami Herald. Michelle, as always, thank you for taking some time. Enjoy the basketball.
Games. Enjoy the madness. Enjoy the madness that is Miami. It's unbelievable what's happening in Miami. I mean, you had
FAU
the
and
World
Nova.
Baseball Classic. You had the World Baseball Classic, the Miami Open going on, March Madness, the men and the women, which has never happened
FAU
before.
and Nova. FAU and Nova.
FAU in the final 8. FAU in the Elite 8. Could you even imagine what would happen? And I know this is like, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying this is so far-fetched, but imagine if FAU were to play Miami.
That would be awesome.
Tournament. I mean, can you imagine what the rest of the country would do if 2 teams from South Florida are sitting there on top of college basketball, ahead of the Kentuckys, ahead of the Dukes, the Carolinas, the Virginias, the Syracuse, and all those people? If it's the Hurricanes and the Owls as big powerhouses in college basketball, but even as it is, the Owls are in the Elite 8 and the Hurricanes are in the Final 16. So guess what? South Florida is catching on college basketball.
No, and Nova Southeastern tomorrow they play in the Division II finals. They're the number 1 seed in the
entire country.
They're 35-0, man. So Division I and Division II and the ladies.
There you go. Miami's a basketball town. Forget this football stuff. Miami's a basketball town. Hoops town. Jump on board. It's not too late. It's only March 24th. You can still jump on.
There you go. Michelle, thank you as always. Enjoy the hoops.
All right. Take care. Have fun. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure as always. Thank you. There you go. Michelle Kaufman, baby, giving us the insight on what's going on with the Canes and a little Inter Miami when we get messy. Can't wait to get messy.
This is the